let's go ahead and do that. All right. So once again, my name is Tyler, and we're going to get going on this how to unwrap your fourth quarter potential. So let's go. So today's agenda, what are we going to talk about today? How and when to ask for seller feedback and product reviews, and then how to prevent negative feedback and reviews, and then finally, how to prepare yourself in your account. Ultimately, it just all comes down to messaging. You got to make sure that your messaging is right and that it's appropriate. And I think today we're going to have a lot of good takeaways, not just for the fourth quarter, but for your messaging overall. So let's keep on moving here. So why is it especially important during quarter four? It's important that you reach out to your customers in an appropriate manner throughout the year. But there's a couple reasons why it's important, especially in quarter four. And the biggest one is that so you don't blow your shot with your customer. You've only really got one or two shots to impress the customer and really imprint yourself on them and like make a difference. So HubSpot, who's like this big email marketing the gurus that like that say that you have a 67% shot of someone opening your first email that you send them. So you have a pretty good shot if you make a good impression, if you have a catchy subject line, what have you, you have a pretty good shot of them opening your first email. But if they don't open that first email, it drops to 23%. So you're losing 40% just in that if you don't get them in the first email. And then if you don't get them in the second email, if they don't even open up that second email, don't even bother. It's really not even worth your time. Everyone always wants to over message. They want to send, okay, well, what if they don't do this? Let's send them another message. Let's send them message number 6, message number 7. Just don't even bother. If they don't get the first two, don't even bother. And I'm saying that as someone who makes his money by you sending more messages. So just trust me on this one. If you don't get them in the first two, just don't bother. And that's really what I'm here today to talk to you about, is how to make sure that your stuff's quality, that your messages are quality, that you're asking at the right time so that you can succeed, because that's what we're all about here at Feedback Genius and at Seller Labs, is making you the best seller that you can be. All right, so we can get a little bit more dialed in now. So why is it important? One, you have increased traffic. You know this. Amazon says that in the Cyber Monday of the fourth quarter Cyber Monday, right? That they did 16 million units by third-party sellers. So 16 million units were sold by third-party sellers just on Cyber Monday. So whether that looks like a 10% bump for you, 25% bump, or more, you need to make sure that when you message those people, those extra people, that you get them in an appropriate manner. All right, what's the reason number 2? Everything is volatile. So people are always trying to change everything during the fourth quarter, right? They're trying to win that buy box. They're trying to improve their search rank. So you need to control the factors that you can control. So what does that look like? That looks like providing good customer service, asking for product reviews, and asking for seller feedback. So having those good ratings are going to be things that you control, because we don't want your boardroom to look like this. We don't want you to have to turn your chart upside down to keep it positive. All right, so that's kind of why that it's important to control the feedback. Additionally, buying habits are different during the fourth quarter, right? People aren't just buying for themselves. They're buying for others. They're buying gifts. They may not know about your product, right? So you may have people who don't have time to look at the products, learn more about it, and decide that your product is the best. They're just going to look and see, oh, 5-star rating, I'm going to go and do that. And that's exactly why point 4 is important. People listen to reviews. So a study was done last year, and it showed, do people trust reviews as much as they trust personal recommendations? And as you can see, as the years have gone on, people are really starting to trust online reviews. And so in 2014, over 30% of people say they trust online reviews just as much as a friend recommending it to you. So that's why it's super important to make sure that your product reviews are there and that your seller feedback are there, because people are going to trust them. They're going to listen to them. And so just why is it important? Again, brief overview: increased traffic, everything is volatile, buying habits are different, and people listen and trust reviews. All right. So before we move on, I want to go ahead and dispel any thoughts that I'm going to be teaching you one magic trick, one secret trick that Amazon hates that's going to get your search rank up and your product reviews are going to hit 1 million just because of what I tell you here today. There's no magic. There's no snake oil. I'm just here to teach you some really good things to use and maybe put some thoughts in your head that to make you think about where your messaging is at so that you can appropriately message not only during the fourth quarter and the holiday season, but throughout the year. So, there's no secret trick here. It's just good information, and I think there's some real value here for whether it's your first time seeing selling on Amazon this fourth quarter, or you've been a seasoned veteran. I think there's some good value here for you as well. All right, so let's talk about how to effectively ask. The key to effectively asking, and this is regardless of where you're at, is always to lead with customer service. This is what Amazon places as their number one value, right? They want that customer experience to be the best thing that they've ever had. That way they keep coming back to Amazon and therefore keep coming back to you. So if you keep the customer satisfaction, right, at number one, you're going to do okay. That's what seller feedback and that's what product reviews are an extension of, right? That's when Amazon set out to say, okay, well, how do we make the customer's experience great? Well, let's let them rank how their experience went. And so customers leaving seller feedback and leaving product reviews are just an extension of this. And if you don't put customer service as number one, Amazon's going to throw you under the bus. They don't care if you tried your best or what have you. If you have negative, like really bad scores, they're not going to like that at all. All right, so after you put customer service number one, you have to determine what your goal is. And this is for just, I know this is pretty introductory level information right here, but for those who are new, seller feedback rates, quickness of transaction, the accuracy of the transaction. So, did you take 7 days to send it when you said they had 2-day shipping? Did you send them the right item? Did you send them the right number of items? What have you? And then product reviews rates the quality of the product, right? Is it as good as you said it was for the money? What have you? Did they have a good experience with the product? So then you have to determine what your goal is. And so in determining your goal, there's not actually that big of a difference between how you want to ask for a product review and how you want to ask for seller feedback. There's nuances, yes, but like generally you want to use the same kind of best practices. So that's what I've got here on this page. So one, be personal. You're not a robot. You're not talking to a robot. Yes, you're using computers, but you don't have to be robotic about the way you speak through it, right? So be a person, not a business. Don't sell yourself as this we know that you put a long time thinking of your company name and all of that, but be James from Start Co. or what have you. Just like be a person. Even if you make up a person's name to put in there, just be a person. Let them know that there's a human on the other end of this transaction. Let them know that they matter. So tell them that their purchase matters and helps you, that their review matters, that they're just not a cog in the machine. And then try humor. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Be personable. Let them know that you're there, you care, you're funny, what have you. And then, of course, you need to excite or reignite excitement about the purchase. So at one point in time, they were at least interested in the product enough to buy it. So provide them value via information, ebooks, instructions, anything that you might even already be sending this to them in the package, but send it to them again. Get them excited. Get them pumped up about the experience, and they'll be far more likely to leave you that review or feedback. Ensure that the experience was positive. So this is, once again, customer service, putting them first. Provide them an avenue for customer service and build a relationship with them. You can tell them about your brand. Don't send them a 12-page long story about your rag to riches story, explaining to them how you came to sell on Amazon. Just tell them a brief snippet about your company. Tell them that you're human. Once again, be personable, but don't drag on about it. Keep it about them. And then you can make a request. Give them a call to action. Say, hey, if you had a good experience, please leave me feedback. If not, let me fix it. And then, of course, thank them. Tell them, thank you for buying from you. Thank you for choosing you, and then thank them for leaving feedback or review. And of course, don't be afraid to experiment. Something might work for you that might not work for someone else, just because of the difference in customer bases. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Just try new things. You're not always going to hit it on the head the first time. Of course, at the bottom here, I have a link to one of our blogs that kind of talks about things that you can look at changing on your messages, optimizing your account. And so that's a good way. It kind of summarizes these best practices that I was talking about here today. All right, so what changes do you need to make for quarter four? This is just kind of to put a bug in your ear about maybe you don't need to message the same in quarter four as you do the rest of the year. So for feedback, what do you need to do? remind them what feedback is for, right? Tell them that feedback's for the transaction, right? My job was to get it here to you quickly. You ordered it this day. I got it to you by this day. Get it to them, second of all, to that, get it to them by Christmas. If they order it a week before Christmas, it should probably be there by Christmas. And this is easy if you're shipping fulfillment by Amazon, right? This is just easy stuff. Just say, hey, my job was to get it here to get it to you by this day, and I did. And that's what this rates. And then if you have a highly intensive, if you normally send a lot of information to a customer about a product, like how to use it, ask them to pass the information on. Make it a little bit social. Say, hey, normally I give the person this. Would you mind passing this to them when you give it to them? And you can do it in that manner. All right, so that's feedback. For reviews, account for the fact that people are giving gifts. So keep in mind that even though your sales are going up, you might not see the reviews you have left go up an equal amount. It's not everyone's just going to feel comfortable leaving a review for a product that they bought for someone else. And that's just kind of how it is. You're not going to be able to make up all of those, right? So, but if you do want to ask people for reviews for products they bought for someone else, how can you do that? I think the first step is to make them feel good about their purchase, reinforcing them that the person's going to like the product that you got they bought for their friend or family, right? Say, hey, I think that they're really going to like this, and I'm going to provide customer support to you as well as the person you're giving this to. So if they don't like it, if it's whatever, we want you to have a good holiday, so we're going to fix this for you. And then request that they help others by sharing the information. So if their loved one liked it, ask them to share that information by a review and help others make a similar good decision. So I think that's kind of how you can ask for a review if someone's buying it for someone else. So we'll talk a little bit more about some templates and ways to move through that as we move through the conversation. So when's the appropriate time to ask? A lot of people get hung up on the idea that you want to send it on Tuesday at 2:54 p.m. because that's the optimum time. Some study and whenever said that people are going to answer emails on Tuesday, but it's not about Tuesday. It's not about 2:54 p.m. It's not about Sunday at midnight. It's about asking when the customer is most happy. So ask when the customer's happy. That's going to be different for each one, for seller feedback and for product reviews. And so let's take a look at how that looks. So when are they most happy? Seller feedback. Once again, seller feedback rates the quickness of the transaction and the accuracy of transaction. So they're going to be most happy right when it gets there. Because if you ask them 2 weeks after, they're going to say, oh, I don't remember if it got to me in 2 days or in 4 days. They're going to forget about that. So you want to ask them immediately on out for delivered or delivery. And for product reviews, you can ask for immediately after feedback. That's something that's available on our medium plan and above. For Feedback Genius, we say, hey, you can send out if someone leaves you positive seller feedback, we'll just go ahead and send them a product review request too. Because if they like one, they probably like the other. And if you don't send off of that, there's a couple options. You got to kind of ask yourself some questions. And this kind of, you have to do a little bit of critical thinking. So how long does it take till they see the full effects? So I always tell people to ask when the customer's most happy. And for product reviews, that says, well, when are they going to see the full effects? For an action figure, if you buy little Timmy an action figure for Christmas, he's not going to be any more happy than right when he opens it up. Because 2 weeks from now, He-Man's head's going to be broken off and he's going to have lost the sword and he'll have forgotten about it and they won't be happy with it. But they'll be extremely happy with it as soon as they open it. But if you have like a face wash or something like that takes 2 weeks for you to see the full effects, you don't want to ask 2 days in because if you ask 2 days in, they're going to say, oh, I haven't seen any differences. I'm going to leave them a negative feedback. So you might want to wait a little bit longer depending on what your product is. So that's just something you need to put a little bit of critical thought into as far as how long will it be till they see the full effects. And for the Christmas season, you really need to ask how long until they give the gift. If you have a product that you expect to be given as a gift, take a look at when you think the gift will be given. Maybe this is something you need to change as the holiday season progresses. So when it's Cyber Monday, maybe it's going to say, I'm going to set this request to go out 2 weeks after or 3 weeks after. But as you get closer to Christmas, you can say, okay, well, I want to send it 1 day after or 2 days after, what have you, so it's fresh in their mind. So here are a couple example workflows for emails. I think there's some really good content in here. And so the next couple ones, I'm just going to talk to you about some ideas about when to send, when to request. We're going to kind of put the last couple slides together about how to ask and when to ask. So this is a pretty standard one that I recommend, and I think this is a great go-to. So of course we have purchase occurs, right? So someone makes a purchase, right? And then orders confirmed, and that's when Amazon sends their first email. And what we always recommend here with Seller Labs and with Feedback Genius is that you complement the emails that Amazon's sending, not compete with them, right? So Amazon's going to be sending 2 to 3 emails for every purchase. So don't double up on those emails, right? Complement what they're doing and work accordingly, because Amazon's going to keep sending those, and you just need to make sure that you're not competing against that. So on confirmed and shipped, Amazon's sending emails immediately. So I recommend sending, and this is one that I really like, customer service based / seller feedback request on the day of delivery. And that's just being proactive, trying to fight fires before they're even started, asking for seller feedback. Say, hey, if it's right, leave us seller feedback. If it's not, let me know and I'll fix it for you. And then if they leave a positive seller feedback, you can send a review request. And then once delivery's occurred, you can send that product request, 2 days to 14 days, depending on how long it takes for your product, as we talked about before. And then you can ask for a product request. And then Amazon sometimes sends a third email 10 to 14 days after delivery. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So that's kind of your first example workflow. And that's one that I really like and always try to recommend to people. So another interesting one is a holiday specific workflow for product reviews. So we're skipping the first couple ones because we don't want to compete with what Amazon's saying. You have the day of delivery request, right, for seller feedback. And then, of course, a follow-up positive feedback for review request. And then you can wait till after Christmas. So don't send any product review requests besides those who are have left positive seller feedback. So wait till after Christmas, and then you can set up a review request message going as far back using the delivery window to go back to Thanksgiving and send to every order from Thanksgiving through like December 22nd and ask them how their gift went over, because you're assuming most people bought your stuff to give as a gift during this time. So you can say, hey, it's after Christmas. How did the gift go over? Let me know what you think. And I would say December 22nd and not December 23rd or 24th, because you're going to assume that maybe some people in the 23rd and 24th will not get their stuff in time for Christmas. So you might want to do a little bit of critical thinking on that one as well. And so one thing to keep in mind with this is if you have a large number of sales during this time, that not all the messages can go out on one day sometimes. Amazon does have a daily limit, and it's this complex algorithm that's basically 5 times your daily order velocity over the last 30 days. So it's something like that, but Feedback Genius, the point with that is Feedback Genius stops it for you, and we leave you enough room to handle your customer service stuff as well. So I think that's something just to keep in mind if you do something like that where it's a bulk message. So it might take a couple days for them all to go out. All right, so that's a holiday specific workflow. Here's another one, and that's avoiding gift givers workflow. I think this is a pretty interesting one too. So if you say, I don't even want to ask for a product review from people who I think are giving a gift. And so the way you would do that is by filtering by repeat buyer and then excluding the people who have their first purchase from you. So what this is saying is, oh, these people don't know my product. They've never bought from me before, so they're probably buying this for someone else during this time frame. So let's not ask them for a review. If they're buying a second, third, or fourth and subsequent time, they probably bought this product before and are either buying it for someone else or they're buying another one for themselves. So it's okay to ask for a review. But so this is just to try to avoid those who don't feel comfortable leaving a product review initially, or maybe wouldn't leave a neutral review because they're not comfortable leaving one for someone else. So that's just another workflow that you might want to consider doing there. All right. So now that we've kind of talked about that some, let's talk about proactively preventing negative feedback. And I'm going to sound like a one-note Nancy here, but provide an avenue for communication. If you're going to prevent negative feedback, you've gotta give great customer support. And so you got to give the customer a voice, listen to them, and then rapidly respond to them as well. Because the name of the game during the fourth quarter is speed. And that's what Amazon has 24-hour restrictions on replying to customers anyway. But during the fourth quarter, people don't want to exchange 15 emails and then solve the problem. They want to fire off an email and have the problem solved. So fix it quickly and give the customer a voice. So Feedback Genius has got some great tools for you to use during that. And so I'm going to go over here briefly a couple of the tools that we can help proactively prevent negative feedback. So one, use delivery window. So this tool just lets you say, hey, if it took longer than this amount of time, don't even request it. And I think that's a very cool tool because especially as you get closer to Christmas, things kind of take longer than you expect to get there. Even if you're shipping with Prime, it can take maybe 3 or 4 days instead of 2 days. And so if it takes longer than 4 days, I would say 4 or 5 days is probably about the limit of where you want to be, right? So if it takes 4 or 5 days, if it takes 6, 7, 8, 10 days to get to them, they're probably not going to be happy and you don't want to request feedback or review from them. But I think 4 days, 5 days is probably a pretty good range. And if you normally have this filter lower, then keep in mind that you might want to raise it up a day or two because things kind of take longer to get there once again. So that's the delivery window. Using skip if seller feedback has been left. This is another really cool tool. I suggest, especially if you're making 2 seller feedback requests, if that's what you value and you're trying to win the buy box by having seller feedback, turn on the filter to skip it if they've already left it, right? Because if you've already made one request and they leave it, you don't want to keep bugging them with requests to keep leaving it. So this is especially good on the second email, or if you have a third email. Once again, I don't advise that you do. But if you do have a third email, turn that on for that. I even suggest turning it on for the first email of the sequence so that the next time they buy from you, you don't request it if they've already left you seller feedback. Negative feedback notifications. So this is just on any of our paid plans. We will alert you anytime a neutral, 3 stars or below, feedback has been left on your account. And we've actually recently re-upped this feature, and now we can include multiple email addresses. So we'll send off notifications to you and your business partner or you and your customer support agent or what have you. That way you can quickly respond during this time because once again, speed is the name of the game. And we'll also send you a text message if you want to insert one there. And I've got a great link to one of our knowledge-based articles here about how to set that up. Probably the most important tool in my mind is the blacklist. And this is the paramount tool to prevent negative feedback, right? Is anytime that a customer wants you to stop messaging them, then you add them to the blacklist, right? And they can unsubscribe themselves. You can manually add them. We can copy this blacklist dash, and there's going to be a number, and that number is specific to your account. So you can go into your account and see it from there. You can just blind carbon copy that email address, and then it'll automatically add them to the blacklist. So I suggest adding anytime that someone opens a line of communication with you, even if they're asking a positive question, just trying to get a little bit more of an idea about your product, put them on the blacklist. That way, if you don't have time to respond to them and we send them a feedback request, they go, oh, they didn't have time to answer my question, but they already sent me a product review request. We just won't do that in that manner. So you can just delete them off afterwards if you end it in a positive manner, or you can just send them a request yourself. And I've got more info there at the bottom about that. That's another great article, and all the links will be in the slides when we provide those to you. All right, so preparing yourself and your account. So there's some kind of great information here. The first and most important thing about preparing yourself and your account is knowing your dates. So know when the last day for free shipping is, and this is just per Amazon. They provided this. Know when your last day for free shipping is, which is the 16th. Standard shipping on the 18th. And then on the 22nd is 2-day shipping. So you might want to start thinking about using those for orders placed before, for orders placed after windows with these dates. Like this is like your Bible of when not to message and when to message, right? Because if it comes anytime after the 23rd, people might think that it might get there in time, but if it gets there the 29th or whatever, they're not going to be happy with the situation. So you probably don't want to ask them. All right. Mo money, mo problems. So with the higher sales velocity, right, in the fourth quarter and near the holidays, you can expect more problems, just that. So more complaints, more returns, more emails, and more negative responses. So you just need to be prepared and have your team prepared, if you have a team, to answer those questions and to solve those problems, and once again, in a quick and appropriate manner. Uh, so preparing your account, this is a very crucial thing to do. So review your messaging, give it a look over, proofread. Look it over yourself twice, 3 times. Look it over till you're sick of looking at it, and then look it over again. And then send it to a friend and have them read it as well. You just don't. You've got a very limited amount of time to impress someone and get their attention and keep their attention. And a bad way to lose their attention is by spelling mistakes, by grammar mistakes, by having your fonts all wonky. So just take a look at it, proofread it over, then apply what you've learned here today, right? So we've put a lot of thought into this. We've got a ton of great information in our knowledge base and our blog. We're trying to make you the best sellers that we can. So apply what we've learned today, put some thought into it, experiment. Don't be afraid to try new things. And then, of course, don't over message. We talked about earlier. You've only got a 67% shot at the beginning, and then that drops drastically every time. So don't send them 17 net messages. There's no point in that. Then ensure you're on the right plan. So take a look at your account, look at how many orders that you've been given, right? So the simple math is expected orders times the number of emails in your sequence equals the number of needed emails. So if last month you did 800 orders and you're on the small plan, you might need to upgrade to the medium plan because you're probably going to do more than 800 orders in this time. And so if you're kind of, for someone who's been on Amazon for a while, they might be able to estimate that pretty reasonably. But for someone who's pretty new, that might be a little bit more difficult. So if you don't know, feel free to reach out to us, and one of our support team will be happy to take a look at it with you and advise what we think that you should do. And I promise that we won't just say, hey, you need to upgrade plans, because we value you, and we just want to make you the best that we can. And another great thing to do is have the backup plan, and that's what the extra messages. So if you don't know, just add an extra messages, because if you hit that monthly limit, it's going to stop sending unless you have an extra messages package. So that extra messages package is really going to allow you to keep sending messages. It's a peace of mind that even if you sell way more than you thought you were going to sell, that you'll keep sending messages. And those are only charged if you run out of messages. So that's really just like a great, that's like free peace of mind in my book. So let's talk about what you guys are probably here for, most of you, and that's the free templates that I've got for you guys. So I just really wanted to show off the capabilities of their new user interface and what Feedback Genius is capable of doing. So I've made these two emails for you guys. They're going to be available to all accounts. The blog post at the bottom is going to tell you how to create messages in the new interface and how you can access these templates. So this one's just a Happy Holidays template. It says it's for a seller feedback request. It says, highlights the fact, customer service, everything that I talked about here today. So thank you for your purchase. We're here to support you. Share your opinion with others. Leave us feedback. Thank you. And then you get out. So real short and to the point. I think it looks really good. And then let's go to the product review request. And this one again just says, hey, happy holidays. Thanks for your purchase. If you bought it for yourself or for someone else, we just want to provide you great customer service. And then if you'll share the joy, share the great decision that you were able to make, and help others make the same great decision by leaving a product review, that would really be helpful. And once again, we're going to send out the explanation on how to get to these templates, but they're live on your account now as well. So you can just do that in the message creation. So a couple days after Christmas, we're going to go ahead and we're going to send you an email reminder that these will be going away. And if you decide to activate one of these messages, we suggest that you set your other messages to inactive during this time frame, just to ensure that all goes according to plan and you don't over message your customer. So that's about all I have here for you today. We have a couple quick minutes for questions and answer. I think Paul's going to join me back, and we're going to go. So if you have any questions, put those in the questions section. We'll be happy to answer those.
Thanks, Tyler, for your great insights there. And we do have a few questions. Some of these came earlier, and I think that you I'm hearing that you can't hear me well, so let me adjust. So thanks, Tyler, for your great insights. We do have a few questions. Some of these came earlier, but I wanted to go ahead and ask them, even though you may have already answered them. First is, I think you explained this one well, but I'll just recap. Do I have to change my Feedback Genius plan to handle the holiday rush? The answer is you may want to increase your plan, or you may want to, at least add some extra messages. So that's how you do that. If you have any questions on that, you can contact customer support, and they can help you with that. Second question is, how can I ensure the shopper has the product before I send the review request? You answered that, but why don't you give that one another answer real quick?
Yeah, one of the great things that Feedback Genius does is we allow you to send off of real order events such as out for delivery and delivered. So basically what that looks like is our system, when you choose sending off that order event, our system will wait and see if the order has been delivered, and we won't send the message until it has been delivered. So you just set that up right in the settings of the message. It's called the win portion, and it'll ask you what order event you want to send off of, and you choose on delivery or delivered.
Great. Okay. A couple of questions. I'll answer. One of them just one person asked, and you did a good job of explaining this, but they may have asked this before you explained it. What's the difference between seller feedback and a product review? Basically, seller feedback is for your Amazon account. A product review is specifically for the product. And then the second part of that question was, does Amazon send out seller feedback requests, or do we do that through Feedback Genius? The answer is Amazon does sometimes send out seller feedback requests, as Tyler explained, but they don't always. And you, of course, can request feedback through Feedback Genius, and a lot of people do, and it works really, really well, and we encourage that. But if your primary goal is to get product reviews, then you may want to spend more of your effort and more of your kind of clout with your customers asking for product reviews and not necessarily for feedback. It just depends. Let's see. This is a really interesting one, and I might have to answer this one, but so we have a customer that's using. I won't name the service because I'm not really familiar with them, but they're using a service that we've heard a lot about these, where they pull in your phone numbers and they'll call your customers for you and ask for product reviews, and that also can do some cross-selling, which is really great marketing. But the problem with that is it's against Amazon's terms of service. And they specifically said that one of their customers got annoyed because they got 3 emails from Feedback Genius, and they also got a phone call, and they were upset with them. And so my advice to anybody that's using those types of services, just to be completely candid, is don't call your customers unless it's for to complete an order. Like if it's an emergency and you need to call them, but don't call them to ask for feedback or reviews or anything like that. Send an email. We've had numerous opportunities to integrate with people that will call your customers, and we've always decided that that's not a good practice, and that if that becomes a widespread practice, Amazon's going to get very upset. So don't call your customers, please. Also, it's very expensive to call your customers. You can use other tools. You have Snagshout and other things to help you market your products that are actually more effective than just calling your customers. So once again, don't call your customers unless you really need to. That's just my opinion, but I could show you a lot of evidence to back that up. We got another question. Where are we going to be able to see a summary of the points that you've covered in the webinar?
So that's a great question. So you'll be getting an email with all the slides as well as a recording of the webinar. But then I'm also going to be posting a blog post that'll have how to get to your templates, and then of course like a summary of the things that I've talked here today.
Here's a good question. With Amazon sending 2 to 3 emails per order, what are your thoughts on just sending 1 email after delivery asking for a product review?
I think that's a great idea. I've seen I've talked to quite a few people who do just send one email, and they do well. However, for some companies that works, for some companies that doesn't work. You need to assess. You know what products you're selling. Therefore, you probably have a good idea of who your customer base is, or at least a better idea than I have just by speaking in generalities.
Yep.
So for some people, one email is enough. But for sometimes, you might need two emails. But I think sending one email, if you can get everything in that, is just great.
So I like this question. Are the recommendations in this video data-driven? Can you point to some data you used on how you decided 2 versus 3 emails, days that you sent in messages, relative delivery, for instance, suggestions about telling the user about your company, etc.? So a lot of these things that we're looking at we look at case studies and we look at users to kind of come up with examples of what's worked well. But the thing is that it really depends on your business. And so I would say, like, beyond anything that we say, we're basically Tyler's recommending options for you that you can try. And the cool thing about Feedback Genius is we have all the analytical tools built into Feedback Genius, if you're on the right size plan, that you can turn on yourself. And so you should use those to see what works for your business, because your business may do really well with a 2 or 3 email sequence, and it may do really well sending at a certain time. And it really depends on the product that you're selling, and that's kind of what it matters. So there's no, like we said before, there is no silver bullet, right? We do know that the old wives' tale of sending messages on Tuesday is not true, right? We do know that. That's been debunked by math. But what we don't know is specifically for your business when the best time to do something is. But what Tyler's done is given a bunch of options that you can experiment with and try, and then you can use the analytics within Feedback Genius to see which is working the best for your business. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can find another one. See if I can find one.
So someone asked a couple questions about the holiday templates. Someone asked, can the messages be set to turn off automatically? And the answer is yes. I would use the orders placed before and the orders placed after there. And then we will automatically remove them on a day, but we'll let you know before we do that. And then someone asked how you can download the templates for holiday reviews. And so they're going to be made available across all accounts in the new user interface. And so you don't actually have to download it. They will be available for you there.
Awesome. So one person asked, is there a way to tell if a person opens your first email? We do have that in analytics. We track open rates. We don't have any like triggers that you can trigger if somebody opens your email, although that might be something that we continue. But in your analytics, you can look at your open rates there.
And that's available on the medium plan.
See, I think there's another question coming through right now. I'm just going to wait for a second. We got time for probably a couple more questions. Let's see. So here's one. Do you suggest the feedback option that pre-populates the feedback as 5-star feedback, or do customers not like that? Referring to the excellent feedback link, is that recommended? Do you have any insights on that?
So I don't have any pure data on this per se, but I don't think there's anything wrong with using that at all. I think that the excellent feedback variable is a good one to use, and that's why we provide it. I think that if we had saw any negative recourse for that, or that customers weren't using it, then we would not include that anymore.
Yeah, I would say that some customers do really, really well with excellent feedback link. And once again, this comes back to like Feedback Genius is a very flexible tool that you can use to bend to your own business, right? It's very flexible that you can make work for yourself. And so what you want to do is use science, use a scientific method. Add that excellent feedback link into your template if you'd like. See what kind of response you get from that. See if that's helping you. If it is, then continue to use it. If it's not, then discontinue it. And we try to provide all the analytics and everything that you need to make that happen. Somebody asked, where can we get the Christmas template? I don't see it on the website. It's in the new user interface. So you have to, if you're logged into Feedback Genius, you have to click the button that takes you to view the new user interface, and then you can click on templates.
So it's an orange toggle button with a plus on it, and you choose Create from Template, and then there's those two options there, for one's for seller feedback and the other is for product review. And once again, just as we talked about, that there's no silver bullet, that there's no secret sauce, if you will. Those are completely editable by you. So if you think, hey, maybe I want to change this to be a little bit more me, be a little bit more my brand, I encourage that you do that. These are just some templates that I just wanted to get your mind kind of stimulated with how you can change your messaging for the fourth quarter.
Yep. So one of the questions was, can I disable Feedback Genius for a specific day of the week?
The answer to that is no.
Not yet.
Not yet. We are working on the capability of scheduled messages.
Yep.
However, currently it is set up to go based off of order events. So if it was delivered on a Tuesday and you send 7 days after delivered, it'll be emailed to them on a Tuesday. The same's with Wednesday, the same's with Thursday, so on and so forth.
All right, I like this. So I'm going to answer this question. What type of subject line will most likely get customers to open the email? Any keys to effective subject line? I want everybody to try the subject line. Magical fairies have delivered your packaging. No, I mean, I think subject lines that are catchy, right? You need to stand out. So like you can say stuff like, the Amazon elves have delivered your package to the door. Like do something interesting and try things. We track open rates in Feedback Genius. So when you get home, when we get off the webinar, go into your messages, try something a little bit different. See if you get your open rates to shoot up a little bit. If they do, then great. Let us know. We have data and we have specific customers that have done really well, but it's like their own secret sauce, right? It's their own kind of proprietary thing. So we can't just say like, oh, whenever we go to our customers and we say like, hey, we really like to share your messages. They're like, no, we don't want you to share our messages. This is kind of our thing. And we're like, yeah, we get it, right? And we would never share that unless we had permission. And so most people that have kind of figured it out, like basically what I've seen is they're just creative. They just do things that are unique to them, and they're smart. They know how to use the tools that they have, and they know how to look at their data and know how to A/B test things and be like, okay, when I put this kind of subject line, I get a lot more open rates than when I do this type of subject line. And so I would say the biggest kind of tip I would say is just be fun, be different, be unique. Think about how a marketer would get you to open an email in your inbox.
Yeah, and to Paul's point, what I was trying to convey earlier as part of that is, people are making more purchases during the fourth quarter, so you even have to stand out more because they're buying 20 things off of Amazon. They're buying all these different things, and so you have to stand out in that. So being unique is not a bad thing.
Nope.
So just experiment, and of course, let us know what you think works. If you want to share something with us that you see works, we'd love to hear it. So you can just email us and let us know if something works really well for you or it doesn't work well for you, and we'll be happy to do what we can for you.
So here's one that's regarding the filter skip if seller feedback has been left. Is this order-based or buyer-based? In other words, if the buyer left feedback on their last order, will they get this email? Do you know the answer? You want me to answer that?
Yeah. So that's based on the relationship between the buyer and the seller. Correct. So basically, if they've left seller feedback for you, then it'll skip. But if they haven't, then it won't skip.
Let's see. And then let me see here. Let me look at another. See if we have any more questions. How can we add a link to our other products in the email? Technically, you can just put a link in there and it will work. But you're not supposed to because it's against Amazon's terms of service typically, right? So you don't want to just say like, you bought this, now you should buy this. Like, you're not supposed to use Amazon's third-party messaging system as a way to market your products. You're supposed to use it to be very transactional. So you're clearly allowed to ask for feedback and product reviews, but you're not allowed to market. Now, with that said, some people use Feedback Genius to do that. We do not encourage it. On the record saying, don't do it. Use at your own risk.
Agreed.
If negative seller feedback is left and we get it removed, will the email stop? You need to add them to the blacklist.
Yes.
Anytime you start dealing with somebody on customer service level, just add them to the blacklist so they don't get any more automated messaging.
That's the perfect use case for the blacklist.
Yep.
If someone leaves you negative feedback and you open up a line of communication with them, blind carbon copy that email address and add them to the blacklist.
Cool.
All right, so maybe time for one more question, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, let's see if we can get one more in. Got one more coming through, I think.
All right, 1 second.
Oh, it looks like we don't have any more questions. Great. I'm looking through the history here, and there's so many that came through. We might have missed one. I apologize if we missed your question. We'll try to go through these questions. If there's anything that's noteworthy, maybe put them in a blog post or follow up later. I think we learned a lot. I think that as the co-founder of Soda Labs, one thing I've learned is a lot of people really want some more really, really great specifics. So I think one of our next webinars we'll do, I'm going to have Tyler go through and really A/B test some messages. And we're going to do a webinar on A/B testing. So you've heard the preview. I've thrown out the challenge. We're going to do a webinar on A/B testing your Feedback Genius emails. Don't know when we'll do that yet, but I think it's going to be exciting. Appreciate everyone coming to the webinar. And we hope that you guys have a great rest of your fourth quarter, that your holiday sales are excellent. We're here to help you if you need anything. We really want you to succeed. And we appreciate your attendance and giving us some of your time today. Good luck with all of your business and wish you all success.
Indeed. And if you guys have any questions regarding Feedback Genius or the content that was portrayed here today, just reach out to us, and either I or our support team will reach back out to you and solve those questions. So thanks for coming. That's all we've got for you. Have a great fourth quarter.